All right, Tri-City Sports Now, Marky, Billson. I'm thinking about doing a media watch in the next segment and all this. But in this segment, I'm going to talk a little bit about, well, the best coaching jobs in college football. Athlon came out with a ranking 1 to 130. Who's 130? Who is number one? This could take a little bit, be a little fun. Because there are always teams that I look at, and it's kind of, when they say coaching jobs, this is a state of the program. This is, you know what, we think that on any given year, this is the best program in America. This is the program that, you know, we really think if all things were equal, they ought to be number one. And this is the program we think should be number 2. And this is the program we think should be number 45. And this is the program we think should be number 130. Now, Southeastern Conference fans, rejoice. All of the programs in the SEC were in the upper half of the programs, if you will. Yes, Vanderbilt, that's the 65th best coaching job in the country. To tell you the truth, I've said this, I think in today's day and age, in terms of prestige in the SEC, in terms of football programs, and I know that, you know, Vandy, they're number 14, that's the way it seems like it's always been. I'd actually put them ahead of Kentucky, and I realize that Kentucky won a New Year's Day bowl game against Penn State last year. But I just think basketball school, maybe Vanderbilt, playing in Nashville, the academics being a positive, which I think they can be. Hey, doesn't hold back Stanford. Not even holding back Northwestern anymore. Doesn't the smartest team on the field figure to have a tremendous advantage? So, now that's my opinion. But we'll get down to this here and talk a little bit about, you know, I've always said, friends, I've said this on the show, if I could go anywhere in the country, if I was a 5-star QB, I had all the brains in the world, every school in the country wanted me, and I could just name my team, I'd go to Duke. Yeah, Duke. Because I get to play for David Cutcliffe, and he is not, look what David Jones, I mean, look at this. Let alone the Mannings. So he can produce quarterbacks. I think that quarterbacks do tend to come from cerebral institutions. Maybe not all of them. And by that, I mean the really prestigious academic schools, you know. And I mentioned, okay, Duke's quarterbacks of greatness, and they are quarterbacks of greatness, both Hall of Famers, but they're yesterday's quarterbacks. They're Sonny Jurgensen and Ace Parker. Okay, I get that. But then again, I can remember when Ben Bennett, this is long before David Cutcliffe, but when Bennett, who actually became one of the first stars of arena football, but anyway, he was briefly, once upon a time, the all-time leading passer in the NCAA out of Duke. Played briefly in the USFL, you know, so that's the era it was and such. So I think he played for Steve Spurrier, as a matter of fact. Anyway, so that's where I'd go. I'd get the, you know, I wouldn't play in front of 100,000 people. Okay, I'll give you that. But I'd play against quality competition. And I really think that, yeah, you know, I mentioned those quarterbacks and all this. I could go give you old-timers from Northwestern, but what about Trevor Siemian? What about the advanced classes that Tom Brady took? What about Ryan Fitzpatrick from Harvard? What about RG3 from Baylor? What about, I say this all the time, unless you want to say Troy Aikman, and nobody says this, by the way, but he was a Oklahoma Sooner, and it doesn't, and that's like trying to say that, you know, Jalen Hurd was a Tennessee Volunteer. Now, he was drafted out of, let's use that, drafted out of, there's only one school that has produced 3 quarterbacks that have been drafted number 1, drafted out of that school. I know Aikman played initially at Oklahoma. I remember him breaking his leg against Miami, folks, okay? And then Jimmy Holloway came in and he won a national title. But that was the year the Vols beat the Hurricanes in the Sugar Bowl and that allowed the Sooners to be unanimous. Well, they weren't unanimous. I think there were some people. I remember Barry Switzer actually voted for Fresno State #1, but no, Oklahoma didn't have to have a split national title that year, and there would have been one probably if Miami had defeated Tennessee. So, yes, Tennessee was Oklahoma's friend that day. Anyway, go on to that. Here are the rankings here. Okay, I know. Let's start with the dirty laundry. All right. What team is the worst college football program? What's the worst coaching job there is? My friends? If you know this one, you're good. This is the fight song of the New Mexico State Aggies. Now, you may remember that briefly, Zane Vance, former head coach at Unicoi County, was a defensive coordinator of the Aggies. He's now at Charleston Southern, and that should tell you all you need to know. He left a FBS school for an FCS school. He left New Mexico State for Charleston Southern. You don't leave an FBS school for an FCS program unless that FBS school is really, really low. And yeah, only 2 winning seasons since 2000. Program struggles on the field weren't enough to overcome. They've been without a conference since the last season in football. Next to last, UMass. I think UMass might be going up, but that's what they got. Eastern Michigan is 128. Louisiana Monroe, 127. I do not agree with 126 and 125, by the way. Liberty, I think Liberty has a chance to be the Baptist Notre Dame in the future. The thing is, right now, they might not be the Baptist Notre Dame, but consider this. Last year, first year in FBS, independent, yes, they were 6-6. That's not bad for a first year. I mean, consider what ETSU did their first year when they came back, 3 years, and they were 11-22. Anyway, the problem with Liberty is they're an independent, and they really could use